All right, so today we get to talk about Halo Infinite because I've been playing it over the last couple of days with their technical preview that they are currently running, and I had a few things I wanted to go over here with what I've played so far. Now, this is a very small portion of the game, and they've also said it's a build that's about 2 months old, and to expect some issues when it comes to graphical glitches and just overall stability of the game. The whole point of this is to try to kind of figure any of that extra stuff out ahead of launch so that can be as smooth as possible. So I'll go over some of the things here that I can with what they've shown us, which is 2 maps. And on those maps, you and 3 other people will go against AI-controlled opponents. That's right, we're not doing any PvP right now, so it's all 4-on-4, and half the people in the room is the computer, basically. But I still have some things to go over when it comes to the gameplay, the feel of the game, the weapons, and a few little things that I think can be improved and worked on here. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So, first thing, obviously, Halo Infinite launching is going to be very important for Microsoft. They had to delay it out of the Xbox Series launch, you know, a year ago, so I'm happy that I was finally able to sit down and try the game out, even in this limited capacity. Now, the bots themselves have been improving throughout the weekend. I believe they're up to like ODST bots now, and the bots are odd because sometimes they have the Call of Duty 2 grenade. If you've played Call of Duty 2 back in the day, when you're playing on the hardest difficulty, going through that campaign, you know what I'm talking about. Somehow the computer then could just throw the grenade and it would bounce all over the place and land right at your feet. These AI-controlled opponents at times in this Halo Infinite tech preview are ridiculous. Like, at times they can throw grenades all over the place and they'll land right under you. They'll headshot you a couple times with a pistol and it's over. And then other times I catch them just kind of looking at the ceiling. So it's kind of a flip of the coin based on the skill level you're going to be facing here. Anyway, I mentioned we're playing on 2 different maps. They're called Live Fire and Recharge. And unfortunately, while I've been able to kind of explore them a bit and try to figure out where different things are, it almost seems like some of the equipment is getting changed up at times based on their locations. But the other part is I'm not really sure how actual human players will react on the other side of me right now in these maps. So while I've kind of learned some of their layouts, trying to come up with more strategy to deal with human-controlled opponents is a little more difficult. Like right now, for example, when I start the match, I'd say like 80% of the time I expect the AI-controlled opponents to just like bundle together and just run to the middle of the map. And that's kind of what I've done now, is just like kind of look at the middle of the map, see if they're all there, and just throw grenades as I go, and usually that's good for like at least 2 kills right off the bat. So let's talk about the overall feel of the game right now. And I would say the good thing here with Halo Infinite is it feels like it's its own Halo game. Like, it's hard to take it and then just put it next to another Halo game that we've had already and just say, yep, it's just like Halo 4 or it's just like Halo 5. No, if I was gonna try to figure out where it places, it is a more modernized OG, like original Halo game. Like, if I had to go back and I'd say like, okay, let me grab Halo 2, bring that up, but then take elements of Halo 5 and kind of put it on there and speed it up a bit, I kind of think that's where we are with Halo Infinite, and that might be one of the reasons so many people are enjoying it right now from what I've seen, specifically the feel. See, with Halo 5, they had a reaction, that being 343, to Call of Duty. Call of Duty, very, very popular, obviously, and when they looked over at Call of Duty, it was way faster in Halo, and it had all of the vaulting and jumping and boosting and all these different things. So they just said, okay, let's make Halo like that. And they made Halo 5, which I wasn't a big fan of. I wasn't a huge fan of Halo 4 either, but at least that still kind of felt like Halo. Halo 5 just felt like Call of Duty with a Halo skin on it. Now, it's not to say that Halo Infinite isn't fast. It is faster than the original Halo games, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, but they definitely don't have as much off-the-wall bouncing around as they had in Halo 5. Like, for example, the boosters, those are not in there anymore. It still has vaulting and it still has sprint, but I kind of expect both of those now because Halo does have to evolve with the times as we go along, and those are very commonplace features or abilities in these games now. So you can run and try to get away from situations and even kind of jump over and grab onto ledges. We do also have equipment scattered around the map, and a bit different here, you choose when you want to use it. So the camo is more like the bubble shield, for example, in Halo 3, where you would press a button to use it. Same thing here. You don't just automatically pop it on pickup. And I found myself trying to use that more strategically, and I know we're playing bots, but it did help. Like, if I was walking around with the camo, and I noticed there were a bunch of enemies in front of me or coming up based on the radar, I would pop the camo and I would be in pretty good shape to kind of sneak around a bit and maybe get a back attack or an assassination here or there. The overshield was much more useful because if I was running up to a single enemy and I popped the overshield, they weren't going to win. They do have those pop-up shields as well that are just weaker bubble shields that only cover like the front, and generally you can store a couple of them. Those were extremely useful as well. The thing with that though, the one weakness there is it takes a little while to deploy, and that actually cost me a couple of times where I was like, I got this, I'll just throw it. And then I'm waiting and I'm getting shot as I'm waiting for it to pop up. So they do have some disadvantages in mind even with these equipment pickups. Also, I want to point out the customization in the options for your controller, your visuals, your HUD, everything. They even have a full accessibility tab is massive. It really is. There is a lot here, and I think they learned quite a bit from the Master Chief Collection, because that has grown and changed and gotten better since its horrific launch, but they've really taken a lot of player feedback into account here, and it seems like Halo Infinite is just going to launch with a wealth of options for how to alter and change your own experience, kind of tailor it to how you want it to be. As an example, if you're an older Halo fan, and maybe you've been out of the series for a while, but you remember going into the settings and just kind of changing your sensitivity based on maybe how you're feeling that day or a new controller or just whatever, right? In this one, there's like 10 different ways to customize your sensitivity when it comes to different parts of the joystick and even like your dead zone and all this. Like I said, it's very in-depth when it comes to customization. All right, now let's talk about some of the weapons, because there are quite a few to go over. And what I've noticed, the game itself, while it feels faster than the older Halo games, the weapons feel, I guess I'd say, heavier than the older Halo games. It's hard to describe. Basically, I assume through the audio and the visual cues that they have here, and at times, the guns may be moving a little slower with something like a gravity hammer, they feel like they have more impact when you use them, which is great, right? You don't want a gun to feel like a pea shooter, but even going down to something like the pistol, it really feels like you're firing it with purpose.
Let's grab some cover. Ammo reserves depleting.
There was this very interesting, like almost shotgun-like weapon that was on the training, the live fire level, where you would go kind of underneath the level, you'd pick it up, and the shotgun itself almost was longer range, but you could change the reticule and the firing orientation by clicking in, for me anyway, the right stick. And that would allow it to take a more vertical orientation if you were closer to somebody. You could just kind of put all the shots in them at once. Or with the more horizontal orientation, it would work for, I guess, crowd control. It was a very interesting way to kind of customize your shots right there on the fly. So I'm going to spend more time with that gun. But I have to say, the skewer is awesome. Now, it's certainly not the easiest gun to use, because if you miss with that thing, you're in trouble. But it's like a, I guess, just a sniper rifle that shoots stakes, or like almost a harpoon launcher kind of. But when it hits, it is super satisfying. And from what I can tell, it doesn't have to be a headshot or anything. If you just hit him in the chest, it's just over. But when that thing hits, it is something to see. I also noticed they kind of slowed down the swing of the gravity hammer a bit, which, I mean, it makes sense. In previous Halo games, it was very fast. didn't make too much sense if you consider what's happening there. You're swinging this massive hammer that's supposed to weigh a ton and kind of change gravity as it hits and all these things. So again, they did kind of incorporate some drawbacks to these different power weapons. They kind of balance them a bit there. We did have access to a couple different grenade types: the frag grenade, the plasma grenade, and the spike grenade. Out of the three, the spike grenade felt different. Like, it felt more powerful, or the spread of the spikes was greater, to where I was finding myself getting more kills with it when I would throw it into a room with some of these AI controlled opponents. But again, we are against the computer, and I'm not 100% sure how they deal with things like a spike grenade being thrown near them. They might not even consider running away from it. They might just literally just get blasted by the spike. And one other thing I wanted to point out here that I really liked was the grappling hook. It is in there. It's an equipment pickup that you find, and wow, that thing really changes a lot, because I'm seeing people use it in different ways already, whether it is picking up weapons and pulling them to you, or getting around to where you can almost Spider-Man your way around the level, fall down, literally back attack or assassinate one of these AI enemies, and then kind of zip away from there. I was using it, and it seemed pretty good, because you have to take into account that we can also vault with the grappling hook. So even if you're not dead on accurate with it, as long as you can hit it around a ledge somewhere, you'll then kind of climb your way up. But like, just being able to get yourself out of a situation, or even into a situation very quickly, is something I want to see more in objective type games, where it's all Slayer right now. So when we start incorporating things like planting a bomb into a base, or trying to capture the flag, I think that is where the grappling hook is going to become key to pick up. So this is a technical preview, and they have asked for feedback based on what we've played here so far, and I put a few things down. The obvious one would be the glitches and optimization. There are graphical glitches and audio glitches in this game that I've noticed. It's very obvious. For example, at times I'll start the game up before I even get into a match, like my name card starts flickering and changes to all pink for my character, and then you'll have flashing and flickering shadows, and you'll have some odd things at times happen with the Spartan for me that's on like the main screen here. And then you'll get into the game, and there will be audio issues where your gun will just not make any more sounds. So it's not something I would expect to see in the official release, and this is a technical preview, so that's why I didn't mention them too much until now, because I would expect those to be completely ironed out. The weird one, and this is something that absolutely needs to be fixed, is on the PC side. I noticed that a lot of people were having issue when it came to optimization and making it run smoothly. And I had the same issue. The PC I was playing this on, because I did capture PC footage that you've seen in this video, and I also played it on the Xbox, but on the PC I was using a 2070 Super, and even if I knocked things down in terms of resolution or like detail settings down to like medium, it was still having a really hard time keeping a consistent and smooth frame rate. It appeared to be like all over the place, and I kind of felt like I was almost underwater. I don't know if it was like the frame pacing or what, but like, based on a lot of people having similar issues, it does seem to be something right now they're going through with this tech preview. They mentioned updating drivers. I've already done all of that, so I'm hoping this is something that they are aware of now on their end, because on the Xbox Series X, the game was like incredibly smooth. We also have the marking system, which they went over during the live stream ahead of this, to where you can kind of point out different points of interest on the map. Maybe it's a weapon that just like spawned and you're like, hey, the BR's over there, go grab it. Or you want to mark different enemies. And I was trying to do it, but then I realized no one else really was. And I don't know if it's because it hasn't been ingrained in our minds yet that, oh wow, this spotting mechanic, this marking system could be very useful, or if it's because it's kind of out of the way. Like for me, it was part of the D-pad. And that means I would then have to remove like my thumbs from the joysticks and go press the D-pad, which also has a button that just drops your weapon. So like, I think at one point I almost forgot where the spotting system was, the marker, and I dropped my I think I dropped my sniper or something. So it's certainly not great that there is that unfortunate side effect if you go hunting for that button. I was trying to figure out a way to like remap that, and I thought about putting it as a click-in for the left stick, and that would have normally, for me anyway, in my configuration be crouch, so I'm kind of trying to pick between that. This is a game that has a lot of different functionality and features and buttons that you're trying to map to an Xbox controller. I almost feel like doesn't have enough buttons to do everything, so maybe this is one of those elite controller games, or yeah, you're going to use a keyboard. We also have the friend or foe system, and I don't know if that's had the desired effect that they were hoping for, in that you'll be able to still have all of your customizations and maybe your different coatings intact, because that's going to be pretty important for it being a free-to-play game with a battle pass that you go through and you unlock different pieces for your armor to customize how you want it. But I noticed that the glow itself kind of just still drowned out any effects that they have. Like, I obviously had it like, oh, all the enemies are glowing bright red, and when they would, I couldn't tell what extra coatings that were on the armor, so they'll probably still have to play around with that. Granted, I'm not exactly looking to see what your fashion is on your Spartan character when I'm trying to take you out with a BR or a pistol, but obviously they have it in place so that you can show off all of the coatings that you've earned. They just probably have to play around with it a bit more. Oh, and the last thing, and this would have to do with the gameplay itself, I guess next to that marking system, has to do with the shields regenerating pretty quickly, even when you're sprinting. I don't mind the shields regenerating fast in general because it makes you not have to stay out of combat as long. And I mean, if somebody wasn't able to take you out before you were able to get to cover, I mean, you're just going to kind of hang out for prolonged amounts of time waiting for your shields to come back. No, it's more about the sprint, not necessarily, from what I can tell, having any real disadvantage. See, when we had like Halo 5, from what I remember, when you would sprint, your shields wouldn't regenerate like at all or that fast. And that was a cool way to be like, okay, you're running away from battle. We're going to lessen the regeneration of your shields because you're using sprint. I feel like if they maybe changed up the shield regeneration depending on if you were sprinting, that would just be a nice way to add some sort of disadvantage to that ability. But those are my thoughts on what's going to end up being a very short amount of time with Halo Infinite, as I am probably tens of thousands of hours in the Halo universe at this point. So this is going to be a blip on the radar, but I am excited for Halo Infinite now more than ever after I have played it. It is I think a more modernized, older Halo game, if that makes sense. And that's what I've been looking for this whole time. I feel like Halo 5 went too far into the Call of Duty realm with all the boosting and the speed and all that. I'm old. I like Halo 3, all right? I like Halo 2. Let's go back to that, and they did, and they brought it up so that more people can enjoy it with some of the more modernized features like vaulting and, yes, sprint. But let me know what you guys think about this, especially if you were able to get into the tech preview and have spent some time with it. I gotta tell you, I'm ready for this game to come out. Trying to figure out when that's gonna happen because they may run some other flights as we go along. Hopefully that means we'll get a chance to look at some other levels and maybe do some PvP, go up against some actual human players. But thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.